Yeah.
I am super excited today because I get to have a very extensive Q&A panel with a good number of the cast and crew from Thank You, Amelia Earhart. Al Mertens, what can I say about him? He's a return customer, and we love return customers at the festival. I am an admirer and just I love the artisan that is Al Mertens. So I usually start off every panel, and we'll start with Al and go across. Everyone, please just introduce yourself and tell everyone what part you played in the film. Al,
Yeah, Al Merton's writer, director, and producer.
thank you. Mary.
I'm Mary Buss, and I'm an actor, and I played Myrtle middle and senior.
Thank you.
Oh
And
God.
Josiah,
I'm Josiah Overstreet, and I played Templeton. Um, sorry, Toothpick, and
Dipped in the toothpick.
I'm an actor, writer, director as well.
thank you. Okay, Michael.
Hi there, my name is Michael Gibbons. I'm an actor. I played Panachek, the tired and abused male nurse to Myrtle.
I know. A lot of you it took a whole lot from Myrtle, didn't you? I just thought we'll get into that. I'm like, a whole lot of you took a lot. That's all I'm going to say. Michael, we're going to start with you. One of the
Okay.
things I'm most fascinated about when I look at an actor's career are their decisions to be in certain films. For instance, I have to ask this. Rat Apocalypse and Army of Frankensteins leads me to believe, what is this guy getting involved in? What drew you to projects like that?
Um, well, I would still venture to say that as far as film and stuff like that, I'm still early in my career. So when opportunities come along to play something different or fun or unique, um, I kind of jump at them. So Army of Frankensteins was done by another great group here in Oklahoma, and they've kind of built a little empire after that, and have moved on to some other different genres, but are doing very well. Apocalypse, that's a long story, and we need some adult beverages to make that one make more sense than it might otherwise. But Casper Van Diem was in it. His wife at the time, whose name escapes me right now, was in it. It was kind of a cool project. It was very different. I still haven't seen the final edit, but it's out there somewhere.
Yeah, it's the rat thing. Cause I was like, we
Yeah,
were in New York for the festival, and all I'm thinking is like rats are staples in New York City. And how ironic that a guy from Oklahoma is in a movie like this. I'm like, ew, why? Just why? I'm like, I get it, you have to work, but I don't understand. I just
yeah.
don't.
Well, the twist on that one is that the senator who Casper Van Dien played was warned by the Almighty that if the basically in this story the Russian government didn't get their corrupt ways uh, fixed and they repented of their ways, they would all be turned into rats. So in the political climate that we're in today, it actually might be a good story out there because we're dealing with a lot of that kind of stuff right now.
God, thanks for
Yeah,
that. Very
I have,
uncomfortable. Mm-mm. I'm sorry that I asked, but I appreciate the explanation. Josiah? So, young man on the bottom there, I have a question for you. I'm all about shameless promotion. Anytime I do an interview, something I saw on your social media touched me very much, and I said we should talk about it. Please tell me a bit about the Woods Friendly Community Garden because I think everyone should know about it.
That is an organization that is ran by my sister's foundation that she created in Charlotte, North Carolina. She basically goes around Charlotte and builds gardens for the underprivileged and
Oh,
shows them how to make sustainable um, edibles, being able to garden and even teaching them how to do the beekeeping and things of that nature as well. So yeah, she is got a great heart and spirit. Wish I had a lot more of that, but I got the acting chops. So
listen to you. Now, on the flip side of the fence, will you tell everyone what your entity is, which is Show Some Teeth Entertainment? Tell me a bit about that.
that is the side of me that I'm actually about to get back into. That's the stand-up comedy.
Yep.
Had to step away from it because I adopted children, and the style of comedy that I used to do was a little saucy. So
Ah,
I had to step back and You know, I think with having the family though, came along with a lot more material that I'll be able to use.
Okay.
And so I think it was a good step back.
Very nice. Thank you very much for that. Al Mertens, I have some questions for you. Of all the various talents that you have, shocker, you've only been an actor once and in a little project called Lifter. So I want to know what it is about that project that made Al go in front of the camera.
Well, if we were actually still making movies on film, that would have been a situation where Al ended up on the cutting room floor.
Oh,
So they still haven't taken it down from IMDb. Yeah, I saw that not too long ago. Yeah, but it
oh,
was a favor to everyone's, just favorite, just no holds barred director, Mickey Reese, who's
okay.
here local. Mary's been starred in a number of his features,
Oh,
and
okay.
he's just a good friend, just an artistic, just juggernaut. So inspirational. He's our own little Woody Allen here in Oklahoma. He used to make 3 features a year, you
Wow.
know. Yeah, I mean, who does that?
Okay.
Anyway, he asked me to do it, and he's a good friend, and there is no question on which side of the camera Al should be on. So there you
Are you
have
sure about that?
it. Positive, I can assure you.
I mean, even with the personality and such, I could see it. I totally could see
Oh,
maybe one more role, just one, maybe one.
we got to funnel it into the scripts. But thank you.
Cindy, I tried to get him. I tried to get him in the.
Oh
the
yeah,
show.
that's
I
right.
was actually just
I was
doing
busy
that.
that day.
Couldn't drag him in. Couldn't get him in.
Yeah, I mean, it might be in the cards at some point, but these are the folks with the talent and the
I get it.
experience.
I totally
We all
understand.
have our wheelhouse.
I do. I get
Mm.
it. Mary. So I
Yes.
have a question for Mary. So one of the first things I want to ask you about is the very first project you did called Sleepwalker. So there's big difference between an actor's first project and most recent project. So tell me a bit about Mary the actor for the first project versus today.
Well, honestly, first of all, I was going to say I think Al should act, and B, Josiah is hilarious. But
Mm.
I studied theater, so I came up in the theater. I studied theater. And then when I moved to Oklahoma, with all due respect, it's sort of a theatrical desert in some ways for professional actors. And so I had to pivot to film. And then amazing thing I discovered is that Oklahoma is filled with creatives who are telling stories on film right now.
Ah,
And
Mm.
and somehow I met some really great ones like Al, who is a poet and a maestro of the word, and
Mm.
Mickey Reese. And I think the film you're referring to, I don't even know if it's been released, to be
oh
honest,
no.
as that happens.
Sure.
So, I've had a lot of really great opportunities in a very short amount of time in Oklahoma, playing very interesting women. So I I learn more every time. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm still trying to figure it out.
So
Interesting.
modest.
Yeah.
Another actor at the film festival who is a female literally said almost the exact same thing. And the whole audience looked at her like she's her. Like, why would you say that? But that seems to be a very normal thing for a female actress. I don't know what the hell I'm doing and I'm still figuring it out. That's okay.
And you know what? It's different in every project too. So
Absolutely. Gotcha. Okay,
Sure.
Mike, you're back in the hot seat for a second here. I want to talk a bit about the industry and how it's changed. You're an actor, you're in Oklahoma. And so for all of us, we've lived through a pandemic and other things, strikes, changes, all that good stuff. So as an actor, especially living in that area, tell me a bit about what keeps you afloat, meaning I imagine that it was a very discouraging time, all the taped auditions, things like that. So what keeps you in the game?
Love of storytelling, I think. Just I really enjoy working with good people, great people
Mhm.
who great stories and bring a great group of people around to tell them, whether it's in theater or on film or whatever the medium is. We actually shot Thank You, Amelia Earhart right at the beginning of COVID. And so the whole world was shifting as we kind of moved into this, but we had a pretty small crew and a pretty small cast, so I don't think we were as affected as a lot of folks were. If you had a huge production with hundreds of people, it would have been
Yeah.
a bigger. We were able to kind of go in, do our thing quietly, and keep all the rules and keep everybody safe, and got it done in the time frame we were supposed to. So since then, I do miss, and because that hasn't changed a whole lot, the in-person auditions have come back a little bit, but it's still pretty
Okay.
much tape as you go. So that takes a little bit of the, I don't know, intimacy out of it. It's just a different process. So but that's where we're at. So that's what we do. So, I'd like to be a lot busier than I am, but I'm raising teenagers. So there's a balance between home life, like Josiah was talking about. You just change your focus a little bit, but keep at it. And when the auditions come, I put myself out there like everybody else, because I like to tell stories.
You betcha. Would you consider yourself, or would you ever look at the idea of doing your own projects if things get slow enough?
It's on the back burner, but it's kind of back a little bit.
I get it.
But I've had a few ideas over the years that they would need to come out and get percolated. And I honestly, I would use Al as my example to how to do that, because his process, I mean, it starts with writing a story and table reads and going through that process, and then the scripts go to film festivals as scripts.
Yeah.
And the massaging as you go along, and then the time comes to make it, and then you tell it, and then you just kind of roll right into the next one. So I really enjoy his process. I think it's thorough and detailed, and things really get combed out and get a lot more detail in it than I think you would otherwise.
He's the guy, right? He's just the man.
He
I'm
is.
just like, we could just talk about Al all day, like literally.
Tell me more. I think this is working.
He's a great.
Okay.
It's working.
Great
Josiah, I have another question for you. So I saw at one point in time you went to school for journalism. So I have to ask, when are you going to start doing some journalism? I feel like I'm one of like the only 40 journalists left in the world. It's a really hard time to be a journalist right now. So I am curious. I mean, does it ever pique your interest to like maybe do something in that realm, or have you gone back to that at all? Or was it just kind of, that's it?
I actually have. It's really interesting you say that, because I was just thinking like the other day, maybe I should just set up something in the garage and, just start doing my own little setup, because the climate that we're in, like Mike was saying,
Yep.
it breeds for, and see, that's a lot of the reason too that I got away from a lot of the same reason I got away from the journalism that I did from the comedy, is the subject matter. To me, it's so depressing.
Yeah.
And with comedy, it's very depressing as well. A lot of people don't know. You either have to be self-deprecating or saying something bad about somebody else. No one wants to hear you say how awesome your day was. It's just not funny. But you come around to where you could put your own spin on it, and maybe make it a little positive, news. That's it's weird you say that, because I've been kind of trying to find something that would allow me to tell the news, but not in such a negative light.
Huh. Maybe we should work on that. I really feel like that's a great idea.
Thank you.
I'm just throwing it out there. I like to throw these little ideas like let's try this, or let's try this.
I'm definitely open for a discussion. So
I would love that. That would be awesome. Okay, Al Mertens, you're back in the hot seat. So another thing I want to ask you about, because I'm well aware through the festival and otherwise that you've won various different awards for your screenplays, and there's no doubt in my mind why that is. You're an incredibly strong storyteller. I know that you tend to like to look at the darker side of human nature. So if I were to ask you, what is it that fascinates you or frightens you about that side of a human, so much so that you create stories about it?
It's cheaper than therapy.
How did I know that
It
was
is
coming?
therapy. Yeah, I mean, it's a cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. No, there's something, I mean, in polite society, when it's not very acceptable to kind of emotionally fly off the table.
Right.
And you know, it's like maybe why people, you know, horror is one of my favorite genres, and I think there's a horror script somewhere in me at some point. But
Okay.
you know, the thing is, you can exercise all that emotion, but you're safe. And you know, that's just a way, and you know, characters that are in the scripts, you know, get to purge, you know, those emotions and kind of work through them. And, you know, like Michael was talking about, the stories tend to go through a fairly long process, and, you know, just kind of be in those emotions for a while and work through stuff personally, and feel stuff. You know, it's pretty selfish actually, but you know, I don't know. It's just satisfying, I guess is maybe the best word. You
Hey,
know?
if it works for you, I can't really complain. And it works
Mhm.
very well for you, my friend.
Mhm.
I have
No.
to say. You do well. Very well.
Well, thank you. Mhm.
Moving on to Mary. I know that primarily you're an actor, but you also wrote one project. So I wanted to talk about the Brad Squad. Can you please tell me about that project?
I was a writer on the Broad Squad, which was a 48-hour film. I actually do a lot of writing, and my future self is going to be doing more producing and writing.
Mm.
Nice.
It's just because there's only so many opportunities for a woman of a certain age, let's say, and where I live. But yeah, that was a comedy. It was fun. That's sort of one of the fun parts about Oklahoma City is there's this festival that like there is all over the country and world
Sure.
where you create a film in 48 hours. As I recall, that one was a broad comedy. And I can't even remember. I do know I got to hold a gun, which was really fun,
Mm.
and climb, and we shot a lot of it in my house. So,
Nice. Very nice. Can we see it anywhere at all? Like, do you know if it's available?
no, it might be available on YouTube, but honestly, I'm not sure. It's been many years.
I guess we'll find
Mm.
out, won't we? I'll take a peek. Okay, one more question for y'all. Back to you, Michael. I wanted to ask this question because you look very young and I don't know your actual age. So I use these interviews often for teaching models for people. And so if somebody's going to watch this today or at some point they want to get into acting, and let's say that, you know, they have a very youthful look, or I often hear actors say, I can't be an actor because I'm too old, or I'm too this, or I'm too that. How would you address something like that to a newbie?
Oh boy. I did not get cast as Horace Vandegelder in college when we did Hello Dolly at the University of Maryland, because when I stood next to Dolly, I looked like her 14-year-old son.
Oh,
So these days, I don't have that problem.
Mm.
Actually, 62. So maybe there's something in the genes, but I think if you get an opportunity as an actor, just speaking as an actor, I think for me, if you get an opportunity to tell a story and play a part, even if it's not quite the best fit for age or any look or anything like that, if the producer and director are trusting you with that part, then I think it's okay to, it's playing, it's acting, it's telling stories. So um I've played a few roles over the years where I was probably 20 years too young to play the part. I'd love to go back. I played Salieri in Amadeus about, oh God, 15 years ago.
mhm.
I play that part now because I think just that age brings a lot of experience. It brings maybe some wisdom
Mhm.
and a different perspective than you have. So I think you should work from wherever you are and whatever opportunities you get, and just bring your life to the table and use it.
Mm.
Nicely put. That's good. I'll take it. Thank you very much. Okay, Josiah, I have a two-part question for you. For one, I recently saw that you did a 10-mile hike. I'm 55. I can't even do 2 miles. So I want to know how you did that. And then second of all, because I know you're somewhat of an aficionado when it comes to stand-up comedy, tell me what it is what do you think makes anything funny? As in, what is a bit that is funny? What element has to be there?
First, let's get to the 10-mile hike since you're going to expose me.
I'm sorry.
I was telling you about a short we recently shot.
Yes.
I invited Al to play one of the victims I was going to kill, of course. Um, and so we rented a Jeep, and I had to take the Jeep back. My family was out of town, and I get to the destination, and I drop the Jeep off as I'm supposed to. And when I get out of the Jeep, I drop my phone, as you can see. I still haven't replaced it.
Oh no.
So I called the Uber to get the Uber, and they're asking me to verify myself, which I
Sure.
can't do because my camera is messed
Right.
up. So I figured the next best thing for me to do is to get on Facebook and get some sympathy. I got to make this walk regardless.
Right.
And I basically just start trekking. And my wife catches me about maybe 3 minutes from the house, asked me if I wanted a ride.
I mean, she tried.
Did you take it?
No, I have my pride.
Mhm.
Good for you.
And as far as the comedy, the elements of a good joke, it seems difficult, but it really isn't. The main element is basically is you give them something over here and say, hey, look over here.
Mhm.
Say, I'm making a plate of soup over here. And then over here you smack them with the other hand. And so here I have soup, but here I've got a dirty foot on a heel on a foot. That's your soup. You get dirty heel soup.
Hmm.
He makes that
You
sound so simple.
never let them see you coming.
Ah, well put. Thank you. I appreciate that. I've often wondered that. Okay, Al, almost all of us who work in entertainment have a side shuffle because we have to, and we don't work in Hollywood. Well, some of us do, but I mean, not most of us. Anyways, I know that your day job is one of them is senior vice president at Vista Investment Partners, and I should be interviewing you on television. I need a financial advisor to interview. But on a side note, I backtrack. Tell me a bit about what it's like to work in finance and then balance being on the creative side of things, because I mean, for most of us, we all want to be on the creative side, and I'm guessing we don't want to be at the side shuffle, so to speak. So where does the balance come in here where you're happy on both sides?
Well, the so-called day job, which I guess it is, total right brain all day long. Although
Sure.
you do have to have some creative solutions to some things. But then, this is, well, no, I've got that wrong. That's left brain. No, I guess that was right. Whatever side of the brain, they're opposites.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, and the two don't really meet, really. And as all of us, especially you running a festival, I mean, everything's about time management. And, and then just as a writer, you just have to train yourself. I've got 15 minutes and just go there right away and come out as quick as you need to. That's really kind of the key. But then also, I'm a big believer in, well, for me, I'm motivated by regret, the fear of regret, and just motivated by fear in general. I mean, to be honest. And so for me, most of the things in life, I just have to get it to a point where I'm in so much psychic pain from not doing it that, oh man, I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and do it. That's the motivating thing,
Like,
so it's one of those things, if you kind of are called to do something internally, you figure out how to do it. That's just always been that way for me.
I actually have a piggyback question to that, because one of the things I read in an interview is that you publicly stated how introverted. So it fascinates me that someone who is so introverted is actually doing all these things, as in writing screenplays, making these movies. That's a completely extroverted sort of thing to do. So, I mean, do you find that a little strange? Because I'm like, that's like the direct opposite of what you should be doing. But I love that you're doing it, by the way.
Yeah, you know, I had this conversation with somebody a couple days ago. My understanding of an extrovert and an introvert is it's all a matter of where you draw your energy. A lot of us extroverts or us introverts, we introverts, a lot of us introverts can be. See, I'll edit a menu if you let me. So a lot of us introverts,
Yes,
act extroverted, but man, it just wears me the heck out,
I
you
bet.
know. But you know, people are about all we have around this place, so you better figure out how to work with people and respect them, and you know, be cognizant of their time and what they're trying to accomplish. And you
Sure.
know, if you can dovetail into that, you know, then you probably have something, you know. Mm.
Sounds like I need to get to Oklahoma. You almost make it sound actually appealing. I have never been to Oklahoma ever. I've not been invited to come to Oklahoma. I'm wondering if there's a reason, either journalistically or film wise. And now I'm kind of intrigued listening to this. Like, hey,
You
I'm
know, Mary hit on something. I've never heard it put that way, but it's absolutely on point. The creatives in this state are, I
Mhm.
mean, it is pretty incredible. I mean, I mean, it's a hard scrabble place, you
okay.
know, in many aspects. But you know, the thing is, whether it's, you know, in art, you know, whether it's writing or music or, you know, film, there's a pretty amazing dossier of people from here. I mean, and you know, maybe it's a little cliched, but like in country music, I mean, you can't swing a dead cat in Nashville and not hit an Oklahoman. I mean, it's just unbelievable, you know, in that genre, you know, and has been that way for a long time. But yeah, with film, there's a tremendous history here. And so I don't know, maybe there's not a whole lot else to do. So we create, you know, but very creative minds here. It's
Very
hotbed.
cool. I like that
Hmm.
very much. Thank you.
Hmm.
Okay, Mary, I have a two-part question for you. I'm aware of your training. Of course, you have an MFA in acting. Some actors, when I speak to them, they're very adamant about pursuing as much education as possible. And then on the flip side, I have a whole bunch that are self-taught that swear by set life is the number one way to learn how to act. Despite knowing that you have the education going back and or even looking forward, would you suggest to someone first starting out to definitely get a very strong background in education for acting?
I mean, I've spent thousands of hours in studios and it has been invaluable to me. I also believe there are people who that just simply wouldn't work for who they are, but I so value the training I've had. I mean, but does it make me highly employable all the time? No, it does not.
Oh, no.
But I mean, it's a hard industry. And I
Yeah.
have friends who are in LA and in New York and who are working regionally and doing very well. I just happened, life circumstances took me to Oklahoma. So it's been an interesting um, personal odyssey, as well as personal, spiritual, as well as artistic odyssey. And I have learned a great deal being on sets in Oklahoma. And I will say this, I get a little bit weird nowadays because all you really need to take to call yourself an actor is a picture of yourself. That kind of bugs me a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, for me, it is a craft and it is something I've spent my life doing. My mother was a theater director.
Mm.
So for me, not being in a market that is really huge has
Mhm.
been it's given me so much personally. It has given me so much as a
Mm.
human being, learning how to live in this world, not depending on what the identity that I thought I might have,
Mhm.
which was actor, more over human. And I think it's making me a better actor.
Mm.
Hopefully it will continue to make me a better actor.
Sure. It sounds to me like, are you planted there for good, do you think, or do you think you'll find yourself in one of the bigger cities or moving somewhere
I
else to act?
mean, I've lived in New York and LA, and
Mhm.
family took me there. Right now, I'm in the beautiful Black Hills of South Dakota because, like Al, I'm an introvert I need to be by trees and
Okay.
large mountains. And
Ah,
Oklahoma doesn't have a lot of that, although it has a lot of space and sky. So I kind of right now I'm in a lucky place where I can be nomadic and travel for work if I need to and follow my path,
Mm.
which right now is out in the woods.
aha. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Amelia Earhart. I'll start off with a couple simple questions. I know it was completed in November of 2022. We always want to talk about budget. So it's estimated at about $65,000. So we're always looking for the next way to finance something, hopefully without it always being self-funded, or hopefully in some way that will make the burden easier. So Al, any good suggestion to anyone out there of a simplistic way to start raising funds besides driving all your friends and family nuts?
Yeah, this is where the day job comes in,
Yeah.
and why it's important to do that. That's for me. In fact, we just had a visit, kind of a chance encounter, my wife and I, who just did so many things on the film
Yeah.
as a crew person. She couldn't be here tonight. She had an event she had to go MC. She really wanted to do this, but we just couldn't make it work out.
That's fine.
But yeah, long story short, I think the crowdfunding, looks to me like to be a very good way to do it. That's not anything new.
Right.
Here in Oklahoma, one of the things that has occurred in recent years is we have a really good film rebate program. That's why Scorsese
Oh.
came down here to shoot Killers of the Flower Moon. Not only did it take place in Oklahoma, but a lot of things have taken place here and weren't shot here
Yeah.
historically. But yeah, we're looking into that. We were at a festival. We screened several weeks ago at a festival, and we just happened to have a couple people from the Oklahoma Film and Music Office, and it took like being at a festival in another state. Oh, we've meant to go to dinner for years. Okay, so this is a night we're doing it. And so we're looking at our film rebate maybe for the next film that we're going to go into production next year
Okay.
with. So yeah, but I know everyone talks about that, and I wish there was a silver bullet, but maybe the overreaching advice, if this could be construed as advice, is just get out of your introverted little self. And if you want to make the movie, you've got to ask people, and you've got to be bold. And you're not asking for you're asking for the sake of creating art. And the people you're asking hopefully have that same value, and they can do what they can for you.
Agreed, definitely.
Mhm.
Second question, I think any one of you can answer, because I know that you've all worked together on more than one project. And second of all, you in particular, Al, as you mentioned, have your wife on the set. Now, I used to work with my partner, who is a professional actor, and I love him more than life itself. But sometimes when you're on a set together, nice and tightly, and you're doing all these jobs, sometimes you want to kill someone, literally. So tell me a bit about an experience where you're working so tightly together. How do you keep that, again, the balance where it's like, okay, we're all friends, we get along well, but sometimes, there's a lot to be done and it can be like this, right? Or was it all just heaven and copacetic?
I can take that, but somebody probably has a better response.
Anyone?
I think the biggest thing we fought in making this movie was the heat.
Really?
It was sweltering. We were in a 100 and some odd year old farmhouse.
Oh God.
One small air conditioning unit that we brought in outside to kind of cool off where makeup was, but the rest of it was kind of as it was. And to me, it wasn't an issue of, small cast, great story,
Yeah.
great plan of how to shoot it and put it together, and everybody got along great, but the heat was debilitating.
Yeah, let's just say this farmhouse that was built in 1890 did not take into consideration that a movie might be shot there in 2020. And so, by nature, a house of that age ordinarily will have a very, let's just say it's not an open floor plan.
No.
And so you get, a small group of actors in a tight confined space with the movie lights and, more crew than the actors in that
Yeah.
room, and 100-degree heat with rain on the first day. So a little bit of humidity there. And yeah, it was a challenging environment, let's just say. Yeah,
Oh,
but I mean, everyone, we all work with good people.
sure.
And we're all there to create art, and so I'm just so grateful for everyone here, and the crew. We're just champions. We had one guy kind of almost fell out the last day, but he's alive, and he recovered, and
Okay.
yeah, yeah, so
I
it
can
all
say
ended up
that
working out, I guess.
the heat the heat really helped to melt the cheese on the turkey sandwiches.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay. Um,
yeah, yeah.
um,
Grilled cheese.
Well, and it's nice that, obviously, like you mentioned, your wife, of course, being there, and it's nice that all of you are able to work together and collaborate. That's a sign of a really constructive team when you're able to have challenging circumstances and able to make it work, obviously. Now, this next question is going to sound derogatory, but it's not meant to be, so I'll just throw it out there. Mary is strikingly very, very attractive. Okay, look at her. Just look at her on the Zoom right now. Now, when we watch Amelia Earhart, she looks a little different. So I was curious about just the transformation in terms of, in terms of that, like how complicated was that? Because to me, it's like two different people, I mean, you look like yourself, obviously, in the role, but it's very, very different. So what was that transformation like?
Oh, dude, it was about 2 hours every day
Mm.
in a chair in that little room that had the, tiny air conditioner.
Sure.
And this is all independent film is such a labor of love. It's so renegade. So where the hours are insane and you're driving from the city out to this thing. So those hours beforehand were also a really good time to sort of try to get into character. Um,
Mm.
and then it also took about an hour or more at the end of the day to take it off. Thank you
Right.
for giving me a compliment. That's hilarious. But yeah, it was just, I mean, it was a lot of time with one or two, sometimes two other people, one makeup person, and sometimes she had an assistant helping her, but a
Sure.
very bare bones crew and HMU. Uh, it was tricky. And then it was so hot that it always had to be adjusted, kind of.
Oh,
Mm.
I get it. Okay. And then the hairstyle, because obviously you have very long hair, whereas your character looks different. And so, was there ever a choice for you to be able to just keep your long hair? I mean,
I
I kind of
mean,
like that idea, but
I,
I'm not the
I
creator.
I think it was written into the text that she was sort of losing her hair. So
Ah, yes.
the hair that I have is a meant to be. Al can maybe say more about this. A meant to be just sort of wig that Myrtle chose to wear over her losing her hair.
I get it. Okay, gotcha. All right, that makes sense. Because yeah, I just the transformation was interesting to me because I was like, okay, and plus the time in the chair, of course. I mean, I'm assuming that there are breaks for that because most of us aren't doing this on set. So I'm like, it's fascinating to me that you're sitting in this chair so much. So was this filmed at separate different times or was it just long stretches?
Oh God, I don't even
Mm.
remember.
We
Al.
shot this feature film in 9 days, and they were 9 consecutive days.
Gosh,
Al is much wiser now after that experience.
I bet.
And so we will never do that again. But everyone was such a trooper. 90% of the production was in that same interior location.
Okay.
And talking with the DP and some of the crew, I would just say, look, we're never going to have this again,
Mhm.
and so we felt like we could condense. Plus, the shot clock was running from the minute we started on the first day as far as COVID.
Yeah.
I kind of
Oh
freaked
yeah.
out after production. I was like,
Okay.
man, that could have really gone bad. What were we thinking? I am so glad it worked out the way it did. Just thank you.
I mean, it's a beautiful. I mean, it was just literally a
But yeah, that's another thing because if you got one person come down with something, then you're done. So we're just racing the clock at that, at that stage of our country's history, with what was going on. That was part of it. The heat was a major factor too in just the logistical aspect of shooting because and Mary, I don't know if you well, I mean everybody, if you're I mean, I think it was like we could get maybe 90 seconds at a time before we started sweating, and
Yeah.
then you've lost your continuity. And I think just in the editing, I think we pulled it off, or we didn't have really egregious continuity errors just because human beings sweat when it's 110 degrees.
Oh gosh,
But
yeah.
we'd have to yell, say cut. The makeup artist was right there, just barely off camera, would go touch up Mary and Michael and the other actors.
Okay.
And then, it was just, and it was almost, I mean, it was almost comical, because we had all these fans and, cut, everyone turn on the crew turns on the fan, throw up the window real quick. And I was the worst offender. Then, 60 seconds later, after the makeup's all the sweat's daubed off, then, okay, you got to turn off the fan, close the window. And I was the one who kept forgetting to turn off my fan. And so our sound guy was like, you know, but yeah, it had some interesting challenges, hopefully ones that will never be repeated in our film
Gosh.
endeavors.
And Josiah, if I got this correctly, maybe I've watched the film 3 times now. So either I'm going insane or I actually got it right. And that you also go through a transformation throughout the course of the film, correct?
Yes, I
Okay.
played young Tipton and old Tipton as well.
Okay. And now your transformation isn't as daunting per se as Mary's is, clearly from what I can tell. So tell me a bit about as an actor, how do you prepare yourself to be a younger version of yourself? I realize it's acting per se, but I think there's a mentality and psychology that goes along with that. Yes.
Yes, the great part about that, Cindy, is, and I'm being honest, is I actually have 5 children, and so I can rely on the fact that I know how my kids act at certain times. And so I just drew up on the experience of being a parent from each one of them. And I've done it several times while I've acting, but it really did help me whenever I was playing young Tipton
Okay.
because of his mannerisms and how I know a teenage boy is going to act whenever his girlfriend comes around, and he's going to be embarrassed. He's more shy, but he still wants her to know that, you're mine
Yeah.
and I know you're mine, but just can't let the world know right now.
Yes.
To keep it on the hush.
So
But
that is the secret. Huh.
yes, and my kids they're a great inspiration in a lot of things I do. Honestly, I talk about them probably a little too much to people, but they have helped me grow. 2 of them are mine. 3 of them are adopted, which they're still mine. I feel like I've never not had them, but I just draw on the experience that those guys have so graciously given to me, and that's really how I see it. They've been amazing in my experiences, and it's awesome that you could see the transformation in that character. Thank you.
Absolutely, you
Mhm.
betcha. Now, Michael, 2 questions here. First of all, do we have any idea why your name is the way it is in this film? Because I just didn't get it. I was like, there has to be a meaning behind this because it's just such an odd name. And number 2, you were like a perfect nurse, so I have to know if you have experience because like you're like the confidant that's a nurse that's also kind of like the security blanket for her, all wrapped up into one.
If it's my face or something about my personality, but I have spent my entire life, I can't walk through Dillard's without somebody asking me where something is, or if I'm in Home Depot, someone will say, "Hey, yeah, what about that?" And I've been in a couple of accidents in, just driving down the road, minding my own business,
Mhm.
and coming upon a scene and kind of getting out to help, and then people in the crowd assuming that I'm a doctor or a nurse, or
Mhm.
I don't know what it is. It's just something in my personality that likes to help or so. I don't know, but no, I have no medical nursing background at all.
Nothing. Look at that. All
The
acting.
biggest motivation I had for this movie was that my Mary's portrayal was so much like my mom's mom, my grandmother, just a cantankerous,
Really?
cranky, she was born in 1922, so went through the Depression, came from West Virginia, was stone broke, they were a poor mountain folk, and but just watching that character reminded me so much, and that brought up the emotions of just kind of loving Myrtle and wanting to help her even when she was a cantankerous, nasty, mean person, because she was my grandma, and
Mm.
Mary reminded me of that. So
Mhm.
I have to ask you also, Michael, I just, every time I watch your character, one of these, it just keep coming back to me over and over again. Why does he just not lose it with her? Like, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I have shades of, I mean, that's shades of, Myrtle is shades of me as well sometimes, but I know how to reel it in. But I'm like, she seemingly has no filter. She seemingly has no cognizance of just exactly how toxic some of her behavior is. And so I guess what I'm wondering is what is it that you think that your character possesses that the forgiveness that he has for her? Where did he get that from?
I think he probably had somebody in his life, yeah, kind of like me with my grandmother. You know, there was a lot of stuff that came out of her mouth that made my skin crawl, and it was kind of off-putting. But she loved me more than anything. I was spoiled, rotten grandkid, and I think somewhere in his life, I think he's very dedicated to his profession. But I think somewhere in his life, he had somebody, maybe a grandmother or a parent or somebody that had a rough go at the end, and he realized that maybe that's not who this person really is. And we kind of see that at the end of the story, because we come to that little scene at the end where it's like, well, did this really happen, or is it all in her head, or so there's some ideas there to play around with at the end, that I think kind of play on that.
Al, what's with the name? What's with Michael's name?
Yeah,
Is this a play on something?
Yeah, two things. Panachek was a guy I was in the army with.
Ah,
Yeah, it was just his name. I just thought it was a unique name. So
Yeah.
whenever you come across that, they go in the little list. And also too, Panachek is a good name that, Myrtle kind of very disparagingly calls him Nurse. I don't give a heck, but his name's Panachek.
Yes,
So it works. Yeah. And
it does.
I think Michael Gibbons as an actor, though, or as a person, he just has a presence, and he's just like this look of calm authority. That's why everyone thinks you're the manager at Home Depot.
Yeah.
He just has this gravitas to him, that he's just got this weight, emotional weight, I would say.
Yeah.
And that's why he, over the last film, Native Hearts, Michael Gibbons actually, we auditioned only several parts for that. And Michael, I mean, the character that Michael played was a chaplain in a prison. And we had, I mean, everybody like came out of the woodworks. He was like the obvious standout over 150 actors, for that role.
Okay.
But it's just that presence, Yeah.
I can see it. I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, Myrtle's character. So this is my question to you, Mary. I see, as the reviewer and as a judge and as a person, as I've watched this all 3 times, I feel as though Myrtle is a character that's very worn, very tired of feeling worthless, very tired of not being seen, very tired of grieving and losing her faith. So you have a very complicated, multi-complex character that you're portraying. So I'm wondering how much of Mary is in that character. And second of all, do you think it's possible that Myrtle is often misunderstood?
How much of Mary is in that? Probably a lot of me and my lineage of women, of people who've had a lot of loss, who've had a lot of who've gone through a lot of trauma and have had to find a way to cope. And
Yeah.
she copes by being self-deprecating. She copes by projecting it all out onto everyone else, until she finds a mirror, probably a little bit in season. She sees herself in season, and season then gives her like permission, maybe to open her heart a tinge and then let go. So you asked me if there's me in there. Well, I hope I mean, yeah, it's not necessarily all the pretty stuff of life, but yes, of course, there's some of me in there. And probably if I was to watch it again, I'd wish there was a lot more. And then what was your other question? I can't remember. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We were discussing just as far as Myrtle goes. Do you think it's possible for her, just looking at this whole story, do you think it's possible for her to still redeem herself in some way, to still feel good about herself? Because I don't want to give away the ending. I'm trying not to give away too much.
I mean,
but
this is like when I first read it, this is I'm sorry, Al, but this is the genius of his storytelling, because the
Mm,
redemptive part comes in the tapestry that we don't see in the moment to moment. It comes in the whole text, and then how it resolves in the end. So it's a, it's a very spiritual film,
mm,
I think.
mm,
And so we don't see it, and he sees it, Al sees it, I'm pointing at you, Al, and then we all get to see from the eyes of a much broader view of how trauma plays out in life, how it ripples out to everyone else we are around,
mm,
how we are all walking each other home, and how that,
mm,
serves her redemption.
mm,
Absolutely, you bet. Do you think
mm.
it's possible that the younger version of Myrtle, um, what would she be saying to the Myrtle in the chair, do you think?
um I think, I mean, I don't know. I've done a lot of therapy in my life. So this,
Ah,
and that is actually my daughter who played the younger Myrtle.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of levels to this piece for me,
Okay.
which was a gift that Al gave
Mm.
to my daughter and I. But I think she would be, I mean, how would you, Cindy, as your young self, seeing yourself now? I mean, that's a hard question.
It is a hard question,
It's a
actually.
hard
Mhm.
question.
It's tough, I do think when I look at Myrtle's younger character, I think she finds this wonderful man, and she finds, peace, and she finds meaning and purpose and fulfillment and happiness. And then that joy is just sucked out of her little by little. So I
Right.
guess what I was thinking is
Mm.
looking at younger Myrtle, if she's looking at older Myrtle and saying to her, remember me? Because I'm still
Um,
here. I'm still
Mm.
here somewhere, even though you don't remember me or you
Mm.
can't find me, sort of thing. But that's just the reviewer. So when I
No,
watch
I
this
agree, and
movie,
I think that Al has edited
Mm.
it in that way, in my
yeah,
opinion, is that she is coming through, and that's why we have to go back and we have to pay attention to young Myrtle and what she walked through to see where we've ended up. All of
yes,
us, all human beings, how did we get here? What were the ingredients along the way? And is there hope for any or all of us? I
yes.
think
Mm.
in this story, absolutely yes.
Oh, I
Mm.
agree, 100%. It all goes back to Al and the storytelling and how wonderful he
Mm.
is. We just want to brag about him every 5 minutes.
Well, that's so cool to hear. But the thing is, these are my friends on this call, and they're so talented, and it's so cool. I'm learning so much about them on this. I'm so grateful, Cindy.
I
I'm
mean,
learning
that's
so
what
much about
panels
the
are for,
movie
man.
on this. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think though, at the end of the day, in storytelling, no matter the medium, I mean, maybe not if it's a short film, but you must have character arcs. I mean, to me, that's just a basic tenet of storytelling. I don't know that during the movie there's necessarily a character arc on any of the characters, but the arc comes from us as the viewer because and this was a central thing on the whole point of this story to me is the thought that, okay, I just got exposed to this person maybe in my life, and I have put them in a box, and that is who they are, and we as the viewer see the character arc of their lives in this, and we find out why each of them is the way they are. I was thinking, about Panachek's character, at the beginning of my take on it, which is not by any means the right take. I mean, it's one take on it, is, he's done this for a long time. He's there to get through the day. These people can be very cranky, but he's above it all. And then at the end, you kind of see more of, he really cares about this person. And, she's offered to pay him before, that's kind of alluded to. And she's had that relationship with him as far as on some level, she knows how much he's done for her and how much he's put up with. And, and in the Tipton character, Josiah, just brought to life so beautifully. You see him going from, somebody who, something inside of Tipton's character, he's not going to take from anybody. I don't care what age it is. You know, he's who he is. He's a very strong character, you know, human being. And he's very wise, even when he's young. You know, he's like, well, this is, you know, on some level, it's not conscious, but he's like, okay, well, this is the scenario and where we live and the time we live, but that doesn't really matter because I'm going to talk to her, how I'm going to talk to her and express myself. And, you know, and then of course we find out later on that, you know, perhaps one of the most taboo of relationships, you know, oh, well, that's where this went to. Whoa, you know, anyway.
Okay. Yes, Tipton, you're in the hot seat, as a matter of fact, because I want to ask a couple questions about your character. I felt very strongly for Myrtle in many ways. However, I think Tipton has it almost as difficult, if not harder. He's in a very awkward position. It's a very, very sad time in the country, of course, because the reality of segregation and separation and what all of that means. So, if I were to ask you as far as Tipton, when he first meets Myrtle, young Myrtle, what is it that you think is it about her that gives him enough within him to love her for a lifetime?
Well, look at her. Good God, look at Mary.
I mean,
That's where
right?
my mind went.
But outside of that, I think it's her strength that he's drawn to because he is a strong man.
Yeah.
And she doesn't take no for an answer either,
Mm-hmm.
except for whenever he maybe applies a little more pressure, she'll give in, but she still holds her walls where they are. And she makes sure he knows that, which I think may be giving him more interest in her because of the pushback.
Sure.
But it comes a point to where he's tired of the chase, and she's so caught up in the past that she doesn't even realize he's been chasing her. That she really is she's still caught up in, and I hate to say it, but she's still caught up in the visions that I think she had for her original family with her
Okay.
dad and her mom.
Yeah.
That's her original vision. And I think it goes back to what you were saying because of the culture and the stance that our society took then, that in rearing and raising our children, which I am totally against now. I believe we let the kid kind of figure things out themselves.
Mhm.
But growing up, we were reared, we were raised, and in doing that, we give those bad habits to our children. I do not think for a minute she wanted to continue with the way she was reacting with him,
Yeah.
but there was something in the way she was reared that tethered her to her past that wouldn't allow her to move forward with such a great guy like Tipton.
Well, and the thing is, when you look at both of them, I think there's so many different similarities. You know, they're kind of going through some of the same struggles. Neither of them, color is relevant, or age, or circumstance and things. One of the things I find so interesting about Tipton is I feel like he triggers her a lot in a positive way, as in she doesn't always see things the way she needs to. And here Tipton comes along and he's like, I'm just going to keep just like this, just enough to the point where you're like, you need to see what you need to see. Now, without giving away the ending, because it's so, and I can't say because I can't give away the ending. However, I would have to say, would any of you done that differently? Because I did see an alternate ending. So don't give it away, but just would any of you seen that any differently? Because it's beautiful.
As far as their relationship, you mean?
Remember, we can't say
Or-
too much. So just I would just say in general.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
been an
Yeah.
alternate ending. Any of you?
I think
Right.
it turned out exactly the way it's supposed to. And the reason I say that is just make sure to watch it all the way through.
Yes. Yes. I would agree with that. I
I
totally.
will I will say I was a little bit kind of nervous about it, and that it might be a little, too on the nose or too without giving anything away.
Right.
But it did, it did something to me. I felt it when it happened. It was a surprise, and it was like
Yeah.
it was like, okay, thank you for that. So
Yeah. No, I gotcha. I do. I
It
think.
it makes
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, Michael.
it makes you think. It's not some little happy bow tie ending. It's something where you have to sit back and kind of process it a little bit. And I like.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, well said. That's always the goal, is writing these things. It's like, man, I have to stay interested. And I mean, I'm a big fan of bubble gum, but I got to do something different, from time to time, with some substance to it. One other thing too, and I almost forgot about this. What was going on at the time was right when we were shooting was the very height of the George Floyd situation.
Oh,
That
I
was
forgot.
on the news all day long, every day, right when we were shooting. And, I just can't help but think that maybe that kind of wove its way in, perhaps
Ah,
somehow, somewhere in
gotcha.
some of what you saw. So
There you
whatever
go.
that's worth.
There you go.
Um,
Now, I don't want to forget to ask about this because one of the final things that stuck with me is the combination of using both organ music as well as the fiddler music. You get kind of an old Western feel along with the organ, which is just piped in so beautifully. So, if you would, where did that musical score come from? Because it's brilliant and it matches perfectly with the project.
I'm glad you said that, and I'll tell them that you said that. There is an absolute, well, once again, the creatives here in Oklahoma, there's an absolute genius is overused, but I don't think that doesn't apply here. Kyle Dillingham is the name
Yeah.
of the composer. I've gone to see Kyle perform live for 15, 16 years. And
Really?
just through, yeah, and he's always, just such a nice guy from rural Oklahoma. He's actually performed, I believe it's in 42 different countries. He goes to
Holy
China
man.
quite a bit. But he's just a virtuoso. I mean, without question, with all the instruments he plays and his compositions. And we were kind of a God deal, I would call it, just no other way for me to put it. We had this chance encounter, and a lot of times when I'd see him out playing, I'd go up and say hi and take a pic with him and stuff. But I mean, he didn't know me. But I saw him and I said, "Man, good to see you. What do you think about scoring my current movie that we're editing?" He's like, "Yep." And he'd never scored a movie before. And so, yeah, just working with him, we're going to put out the soundtrack on vinyl. That's on its way. I mean, just what he
Nice.
put together was so brilliant, maybe where he can hawk it at his performances and things. But I told him, it was just one of the best experiences of my life, composing with him and working with him on the score and, just us working on it together. And whatever ideas I had, he incorporated them. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And then threw on his own Beethoven, Bach, Paganini expertise over it. We were working on it together, and I told him so many times, I said, Kyle, I'll never get you again. I mean, yeah, I mean, when people hear this, and so the music though was a result of Kyle's incredible musical talent. Yeah.
Beautiful. It was gorgeous.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So now that the film has been at Art is Alive, where is it headed next?
We're at the very end of our festival run. It's been a long, great run. In fact, and I don't know if y'all cast members knew this, we got accepted into the Red Brick Road Film Festival here in Oklahoma, down in Pauls Valley. And so that's going to be, I can't remember the days, but the start of next month. So that's a smaller town that's about 30 minutes outside the metro here.
Okay.
And I'm saying that to say this. I think we've got a few other things in the hopper festivals, but I'm probably going to say that's the last festival that we'll be in. And
Cool.
it's great to kind of have it circle back because, you were good enough to accept it, in your great festival in the city. And then, we played a number of festivals, a couple of big festivals in LA. And for some reason, Southern Texas loves this movie. Like we've gotten so many things from South Texas. It's
Very cool.
incredible. Yeah,
Very nice.
and all around, pretty much all around. But yeah, we're kind of winding it up. After that, it's an interesting question because ordinarily the path is you seek distribution. And I don't know exactly how that's going to play out here because I originally wrote it as a stage play. And so I'm gonna, like, by hook and by crook, get my stage theater people down to Paul's Valley to screen it,
Okay.
because I would just like nothing better than if it's maybe in the cards or we can make it happen somehow, where it would be on stage. We do have a couple of very experienced, wonderful stage actors here on this call with us who have
Who
known the
might
lines
entertain that.
before. Yeah.
Look at that.
So, yeah,
Oh, and by
but
the way, how many nominations did you get from Art is Alive? Because we should
4.
mention 4.
4.
This
Yes.
4. 5? I want to say 5.
Oh, it was 5.
It was
There's so
5.
many I can't keep count. Yeah.
Including
Yeah.
one for that girl over there. Mary was one of
Yeah.
them. I know that for sure.
Yeah.
I wish that I could remember them all, but I have like 55 films here, so it's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it is. It is. So let me
Yeah.
just say this in closing before we stop the recording. What I have to say is that I'm always so honored and blessed that Al comes to me each year. Ever since the time I started, there's something to be said about people that actually want to bring their beautiful work and talent to you. And so I never take it for granted. And I'm always very humbled and honored. So I appreciate the fact that you allowed me to show your great work, to give me all of this time to talk about it. And moreover, to just have faith that I will show this and represent it in the best possible light. So I'm grateful to all of you for allowing me to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Let me stop this because I want to say just a couple